Hello there, good evening. You're welcome to Ghana Tonight. I'm Kemini Amano. We are live here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. Let's take a look at our top stories tonight. Finally, a budget first quarter of this year, 2025, is approved. Meanwhile, MPs continue discussions on the emoluments and other businesses as we look ahead into the last State of the Nation's address for the current president. Meanwhile, the NPP, who will now be in the minority, retain their leadership. But also tonight, not so fast for Akwatia MP, as the NDC parliamentary candidate secures an injunction preventing the NPP candidate from holding himself out as MP-elect or sworn in at all at the ceremony, which is only 4 days away. Tonight, we can tell you Akwatia is not alone. Also tonight, we take a look, or we take you live, rather, to Cantomanto Market as the business district sleeps. We bring you a true picture of the extent of the damage caused by the blaze that engulfed over 100 stalls. Those are the big stories tonight. I'm glad you could join us here on Ghana Tonight. We're streaming live on 3news.com. We are also live on 392.7 FM, on Facebook, on x.com, and on YouTube. So be a part of the conversation. Send in your questions, your thoughts, using the hashtag Ghana Tonight. Let's bring you a summary of the night's biggest stories in Ghana Brief. MP-elect for Akwatia constituency, Ernest Yaokumi, has been injuncted by a Koforidua High Court for holding himself out as winner of the December 7 polls. The court, presided over by Justice Senyor Amedehe, ruled that it was satisfied that a 10-day injunction be imposed. The Electoral Commission on December 12 declared Ernest Kumi as winner of the polls at the Tesano Training School here in Accra after multiple failed attempts to finalize the results in the Eastern region. The Greater Accra Regional Minister Titus Glover has directed security services to intensify investigations into the cause of the Cantomanto fire. The minister also called on the incoming government to find a way to compensate the affected traders once they assume office.
Every year these things have been going on, and I'm asking my commander, what have been the help that we've been given? Because they're supposed to have night watchmen, and they should know that within this same period is where these fires, come along. So what have been the intelligence? What have they been doing in their night patrols and all that? What have they been doing? This is an issue that the police can help us to unravel. President Mama's government should look at these people.
The Traders Advocacy Group Ghana is urging the government to establish an emergency fund to support traders affected by the devastating Cantomanto Market fire in Accra. The fire, which occurred earlier today, has left traders in distress as they assess their losses.
We stand in solidarity with the affected members and traders during these difficult times. We urge all stakeholders to come together to support the affected traders in their time of need. We believe that through collective effort, we can help the Cantomanto market community rebuild and recover from this devastation event.
President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabonu, has called on President-elect John Dramani Mahama to immediately roll out policies to address the economic challenges. According to him, the economic recovery policies should include addressing depreciation of the cedi and cost of living on Ghanaians.
One thing that is afflicting businessmen and women traders and so in this country is the fluctuating value of the cedi. We are not competitive in relation to our neighbors in Togo and Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire have a huge boom in their economy. A lot of companies in Ghana are gravitating towards Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire is now becoming the creme de la creme of West Africa. Every day you wake up, your cedi is gone down. The dollar is gone up. Other currencies have gone up. Prices of goods and services change on a daily basis. How can you run such an economy?
The Ghana Health Service is urging citizen vigilance and hygiene to end the incidence of cholera in the country, having recorded an increase in the death toll to 37. According to the Director of Public Health, Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bequin, although there are more suspected cases, there is a decline in admissions.
We are not getting any more severe cases. If you talk about suspected cases, there was a little surge, but that's good. Because when you have more awareness, people tend to report, but they report as mild cases. So we are getting a decline in the number of admissions. And hopefully we won't get any more severe cases. And then we can say that the outbreak is on the decline and possibly be looking at turning it over.
Gonna brief there for you. If you just joined us, you're right in time for some action tonight. Let's get into some big business. 68.1 billion cedis is what the transition budget is worth. Why the outgoing government thinks that is so, we'll find out right now. Government can now spend some 68.1 billion Ghana cedis from now till the John Dramani Mahama administration comes into office. Then they also take over up until March. That's because Finance Minister finally made it to Parliament after several days of uncertainty. Speaker explains institutional challenges in Parliament are to blame for the delay in passing the expenditure in a preparation budget. I want to show you a quick breakdown of how this money is to be expended. As you see on your screen, there is the compensation of employees costing us about 16.4 billion cedis. The explanation for that is that the committee that looked into this, the parliamentary committee that looked into this, agreed, or in their report wrote that the projected expenditure in relation to compensation of employees is 16.4 billion. No further explanation was given on that. Same with the use of goods and services. Also, some 3.1 billion cedis plus was approved in Parliament, of course, for that. Then comes interest payments, which is a big ticket item on the list. Over 20 billion, nearly 21 billion of the 68 billion will go into interest payments. The other big ticket item on here is grants to other government units. About 9 billion will be going there as well. And then you come down to other expenditure. The question then will be, what will that amount be used for? Other expenditure, we see some 9.4 billion cedis. What are these other expenditure? When I look into the report by the parliamentary committee, they say that the amount includes payments to the energy sector levy account, ESLA that is, and the independent power producers. Remember that the IPPs have always made the case for payment of money. Now we know that in this transition budget, some 9 billion has been made available for that. There's also capital expenditure going about 5.2 billion. So the total expenditure from those on above will be about 64.5 billion. But we also have arrears clearance right below that, 2.3 billion, and amortization 1.2 billion. So bringing us to a total of 68.1 billion cedis. Also, I can tell you that in that report, that will not be all. Some questions were asked about the transition. The finance minister gave a response to the committee on concerns about transitions. Just before I tell you about what they say on revenue. Now, this is what they say on transitions just quickly before we get into the issue of revenues. We know that this budget has been in play for a long time now. It is only now that the Parliament has finally passed that budget. Perhaps before we look into the reasons that were given for whether or not this could create any problems for the incoming administration, let's take a listen to some voices from Parliament. Then I'll tell you that.
Challenges that the institution of Parliament itself had, and therefore those had to be solved before the presentation today. I need to emphasize that for the information of our partners, the media, particularly the Parliamentary Press Corps.
Very well. So that was Speaker of Parliament, explaining why the issues delay. And like I told you before, the same way the Speaker puts it, that there were issues in-house that led to that delay. So we'll bring in some more soundbite. But right now, let's take the conversation to economist Professor Lord Mensah. Prof, good evening to you. I'm so glad you could stay with us here. But now we know how much the first quarter of 2025 is likely to cost us as a people, 68.1 billion. Is it looking good for the incoming administration when you see the breakdown?
Yeah, if you relate it to last year's budget for the whole year, and you are to split that into 4, right, compared to, what we are seeing now, I can say that, yes, I mean, it's in moderation. And that is what I was expecting, because we are under an IMF program, and the first quarter of next year being part of the fiscal year, I wasn't expecting any huge expenditure lines to be called as it used to be. From the position of the IMF program, we may have to be conserved when it comes to our expenditure lines. And looking at this, 68.1 billion related to last year's budget for the full year, I can say that I've not seen last year's budget realization yet, what the government really spent. But then I can say that this is quite, in moderation. And I believe that is why the joint committee had the confidence to present it to Parliament.
Indeed. Let's look at some of the big ticket items on the list and whether or not, you can read into these ones. Let's start off with interest payments. We see as much as 20 billion, to be spent between January and March of 2025 this year. What meanings do you make of that?
Yes, of course. When you talk about interest payment, we've had situation where government has concentrated much of its borrowings in treasury bills, and the 91-day treasury bill is one of the huge, of all the possible interest payment that government is looking out for. Domestically, this year, next year, this year we're already in the year. So effectively, I'm not surprised to see that huge, amount of money being placed there. And, this is one of the reasons why we find ourselves in debt, problems. And every country that, if you look at your expenditure lines, where the interest payment has taken over almost everything, clearly it shows that the country is in debt difficulty. And this is one of the indicators, interest payment alone, which is even more than salary and compensations.
Right.
So effectively, it tells you that yes, indeed, it's a country that is battling with debt payment.
Indeed, but then there is also compensation of employees, which is about 16. You mentioned that 16.4 billion cedis, and this is only for the period between January and March. Is that too much?
No, that is okay. Like if you look at the breakdown, you can match it up with last year's full year breakdown, even if the last quarter of last year has not been realized. I mean, let's look at the first 3 quarters of last year. If we look at it and you relate it to the breakdown that we have here, clearly it tells you that, yes, indeed, I mean, compensation is quite in moderation. One way or the other, it tells you that government is not prepared to absorb, more people onto its payroll, because what we have here is more or less 1/4 of what is likely to be spent, last year. So effectively, that is what it signals. But then it is non-discretionary expenditures. They are expenditures that government has no control over. When you talk about, compensations and then interest payment, government cannot do without them. And if sum the two together, it's taking more than 50% of the first quarter, expenditure. And clearly, it tells you that, yes, room to, expand, that is investing in infrastructure and other things, is being, crippled, with compensations and interest payment.
Right.
And the normal circumstance is supposed to have, more money allocated for capital expenditure. But then that is not what we see here. Probably we seeing this because it's an interim, budget. Because it's a budget that would just last for only first 3 months of, next year.
Indeed. But you see, Prof, if we make the comparison to not to previous government, particularly compensation of employees, if the comparison is not made to previous budgets, but it's made to our state as a country, does it not tell us that we have too many people there?
Yes, we do. That is why government needs to work hard to ensure that the private man also comes in. Because if you have an economy where, government has hijacked, the economy through its activities by borrowing on the, the market, keeping interest rates high, where funds flow is only gravitating towards, government side, it tells you that the private man, room to expand and assessing funds, becomes difficult. And as a result of that, they may not be able to expand and get, part of the labor force that government is spending on. So from where I sit, this structure that we see is a sign of a government that, has hijacked an economy for some time. As a result of that, keeping more people on payroll. But then we're waiting for reorientation. We're waiting for, budget lines that will encourage the private man to also come in when it comes to, compensation. So that's all we're hoping for. Going right into the second quarter to the fourth quarter of next year, when the new administration takes over with their own budget.
I see. So the other key issue we'd have to look at here is the revenues being reported, right? When we look at the first quarter of this year, the Joint Committee report tells us that there is a projection that would have revenue of about 42.5 billion cedis, an equivalence of 3.5% of the country's GDP. Is this realistic to start with? Well, it seems we have lost Prof over there, but I wanted us to look, compare the expenditure to our revenue generation or projections. It's obvious that we are going to be spending more in the first quarter of 2025 than we are making, because the budget, the expenditure in advance of appropriation is 68.1 billion cedis, while the projected revenue for the same period is 42.5 billion cedis. The shortfall is very clear that we will not be able to raise all the revenue to be able to make up for that. Then the question then will be, what is the room to maneuver for the incoming administration? When we get Prof over the connection again, that is where we'll take the conversation to. But I was telling you that the Joint Committee had raised an equally important issue to do with the timing of this mini budget, as it's called. And this is the response that the Joint Committee was given from the Finance Minister. It says that, well, I'll tell you that a little later, but my understanding is Prof is back over the phone. Prof, I was saying that the key issue the incoming government will have to contend with is finding the money. because this is what has been approved to be spent. Now, the issue will be whether we'll have the hard money to be able to do the things that are on this budget or have been approved by this mini budget. The Joint Committee report tells us that the projected revenue for the first quarter of this year, January to March, is 42.5 billion. But you compare that to our expenditure projections, 68.1 billion. I was saying, first of all, let's look at the projection by itself alone, whether or not it's realistic. Is that a realistic projection for the first quarter of 2025?
Yeah, so if you look at revenue that was expected to be raised from last year, the reason why I keep on referencing last year is that every economy, gathers momentum, and whatever is happening, whatever happened in last year is likely to reoccur in the, pessimistic situation or the baseline situation, let me put it that way. And so looking at it, I can say that, yes, the 42 billion is within range if you look at last year's, budget. But then if you relate, the 42 billion to the,
expenditure,
of course, there is a deficit and that needs to be financed. And obviously, the government has no room to finance this apart from the, treasury bill market. And what it tells you is that, again, government will stay on the treasury bill market in the first, quarter of next year, as it has been, this year.
And which means that your projection also is that in order for the incoming government to make up for the shortfall in revenue, to be able to fund itself, it's likely to borrow from the domestic market through its treasury bills.
Of course, that's what it means, because there's no way government, all the avenues to finance, deficit has been blocked. You can't go on the capital market to go and borrow, unless maybe you're filling with grants and support from our donor agencies. But then the main one that is, in control, that government can easily borrow from is the domestic, market. And the domestic market, even investors are not interested in the bond market. Unless maybe there's a goodwill that the new administration is coming with.
And it would seem so, because I was going there with you that then perhaps the incoming administration is in luck, because we know that December there was an oversubscription from the 91-day T-bill to the 365 days.
Let me correct something here.
Right.
You see, oversubscription in the 91-day bill in itself compared to the 365-day in itself tells you that investors don't have confidence in the economy. In every economy where your financing is swelled up on the short-term side, it tells you that the investor confidence is mainly short-term, and the avenue to raise money keeps on, reducing. So that means that government can raise money for 91 days, maximum 365 days, for which this money has to be returned to the investor with interest. And these monies are not monies that you can use to build roads. These monies are not monies that you can use to build, the hard part of the economy, which you leverage on to grow. So it's going to be hand-to-mouth kind of, economy that we're going to run.
I see.
So from where I sit, the deficit that has been created will be mainly financed from the domestic market, which is the money market. And at the end of the day, that is what the banks are cashing in on. The banks are cashing in on the weakness of the government, because they know that once government reaches budget and there's a huge deficit like that, obviously government will come and borrow. And so the banks will not be prepared to give their money to citizens like me and you, which the risk is so high, or even the economy in itself has not provided any kind of room for us to do business and pay the banks will charge us. So the banks will be comfortable to take deposit and then put it in government treasury bills, and then turn around every now and then. It tends to, slow down the economic growth. And you'll be sounding, banks' assets are growing, assets are growing as a result of this, long-term aspect of the economy is being sacrificed now as it stands.
Very well. It would appear that the new government has a lot on its hand. It would have to be innovative with its own budget.
We need a reorientation,
Indeed.
and it depends on the posture of the new administration.
Indeed. Prof, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being here on the program. Listen, a lot of innovation is required from the new government when they finally come into office. But I was telling you that the Joint Committee had raised concerns about non-interruption of government business. The Finance Minister assured the committee that despite the late submission, there would be no adverse impact on government business. He explained that although it normally takes a week to load figures on government's finance management system, GIFMIS, in respect of the 2025 expenditure in advance of appropriation, they would take steps to upload the figures onto the GIFMIS in less than a week. So they don't expect government business to be interrupted when, the new president is sworn in and a new government takes over. Let's move on from the issues with the mini budget and then talk about the MPs themselves, because injunction has hit Akwatia MP-elect. What this means for his chances on entering Parliament come come January 6, 2025, we'll find out now. Good to know you're still here with us. The Koforidua High Court has ruled to prevent MP-elect for the Akwatia constituency, NSC Alkumi, from holding himself out as winner of the December 7 polls, at least for the next 10 days. The Electoral Commission on December 12 declared NS Kumi as winner of the polls over the NDC's Henry Boakye Adom at the Tesano Police Training School here in Accra after multiple failed attempts to finalize the results in the eastern region. Now, the commission cited violence at the original collation center as reason for the collation in Accra. Here's a quick reminder of how events unfolded. That was then. The ex parte injunction secured by the incumbent MP, Henry Boakye Adom, also orders the Electoral Commission and the Clerk of Parliament from recognizing, registering or gazetting Alkumi as Member of Parliament elect at all for Akwatia. Lawyer for the NDC candidates has been speaking to News 360.
Even when he's on the verge of being sworn in, the court can still injunct. Even you remember the sequencing case, even if we are in Parliament, you can still be injuncted. But in this case, they were asked to do online registration. My understanding is that the in-person registration starts today, whether it started or not. But my information is that, you see, following the Supreme Court decision, the EC withdrew the gazette that they had sent to the Ghana Publishing Company. As I speak to you, I do not have confirmation that that gazette has been restored or taken back to the Ghana Publishing. It's a lecture case, but at the end of the day, what is most important is that the court has ordered that all who matter, all who are involved in this matter should not recognize NS Kumi, who is the candidate for MPP. They should not swear him in, they should not gazette, they should not admit, they should not even call him MP elect. This is for 10 days per the law, and that is what the law says. After the 10 days, we will repeat the application and have this matter heard, so that we will all come to a conclusion as to who actually won the election fair and square. But at the moment, NS Kumi cannot call himself, EC cannot even proceed with the gazette if they've not done. And if they have, the clerk to parliament is also being said here that he should not swear him in as member of parliament elect until after 10 days, the court will take a decision after we've repeated the application.
I'm afraid, Mr. Bediako Baidu, we've got to say a big thank you.
Akwatia isn't the only constituency facing obstacles in the final days to the constitution of the 9th Parliament. Let's take you to Fantiakwa North, where an injunction application has been filed against the NPP candidate who was also declared in Accra. Now, this seat currently is held by the NPP's Kwabena Amankwa Isiama. In the 2024 election, the incumbent does not feature. It was a contest between the NDC's Haruna Apeu Redu and the NPP's Kwame Appiah Kodua. Originally, this constituency was declared for the NDC's Apeu Redu. Take a look.
Is the returning officer?
Yeah.
After compiling,
After coalition.
after the coalition, we had total valid votes 21,985. Total rejected 581. Total, so when you add it to the total vote cast is 22,566. Now, NPP
Kwame Appiah Kodua.
away.
NPP Kwame Appiah Kodua had 10,000.
NPP Kwame Appiah Kodua had 10,940. 847. And Honorable Haruna Appiah had 11,138.
Oh.
So on that note, by the power vested in me as a returning officer for Fantiakwa North, I declare Honorable Haruna as the winner.
That was not meant to be funny, but you know, on hindsight, we can giggle about it. So that was the original declaration. You know, the NDC candidate was declared. Subsequently, the Electoral Commission will change that declaration in favor of the NPP candidates. Now the NDC is moving to reclaim the seat, starting with this injunction. Let's connect with Yvonne Ikwe. She's our Eastern Region correspondent. Yvonne, take us back into time. What happened on that fateful day?
Okay, Manny, good evening, and good evening to our viewers. The elections in the Eastern Region was largely a very peaceful process until the coalition began, and then constituencies began to have tensions, which went to disputes, and then the violence was happening. I could mention from Suhum, Fantiakwa North, Ayenswano, and some Adredri, and then Akwatia, where we're having the issues currently. That was the main reason why the EC had to uphold all of those results and then take it to Accra to do what we could call the coalition. Now, mind you, the coalition had begun in all those centers before the processes was disrupted. The aggrieved parties believed that per their numbers they had, they were supposed to have won those seats. One or two of those constituencies are flip seats. It could go both ways, Akwatia and then Ayenswano. But this time around, the EC had declared it by its figures or data for the NPP. And so the NDC still feels that the Fantiakwa North seats, probably by the figures they're having, belongs to them. But the EC feels that the original declaration by the returning officer was done under duress. That is what the EC says. Reason they had to do the coalition in Accra. And so now we're hoping that as the court takes the issues at hand, due process will be followed, and then the rightful candidate who won for that particular constituency will be duly declared.
I see. So in the case of Fantiakwa North, were there any disturbances leading up to the declaration of the NDC candidates in the original declaration?
So for Fantiakwa North constituency, like I said earlier on, coalition had not ended. They were still in the process. But the NDC guys believe that the data or the figures they had collated from the polling station could make their candidate winner of that particular election. And so they're hoping that Electoral Commission declares them the winner. 2 days from Saturday, Sunday, there were no clear winner. Of course, the EC, which was mandated by the law, had not declared anybody until the evening when we saw the videos that the returning officer had apparently declared the NDC candidate the winner of the election. The EC officer in the Eastern region did say that they were not going to allow for that process to be officially called because they would want to recollate the figures again and do their own official declaration. So that has been the circumstances surrounding the Fantiakwa North constituency elections and the result.
Well, let me bring in now lawyer for the NDC Fantiakwa North parliamentary candidate, Isaac Mintalabi. Isaac, good evening to you. Thank you so much, lawyer, for joining us here. You went to court, applied for that, put through that injunction application. What's the latest on that? Has the order been given already? Hello, lawyer. Oh, it seems that lawyer is still connecting with us, but indeed, lawyer. I was asking what the outcome of that injunction application has been so far.
Good evening to your listeners. The application is still pending. It's been scheduled for the 17th of January to be heard. However, in law, once an application for injunction has already been filed and same step, it already operates as an injunction. The reason being that where the court intervention is being sought for the purposes of, injuncting a conduct, if you accept and you are aware that the court is seized with the matter and you proceed, to perform or to engage in the conduct which is the subject of the application, you interfere in the administration of justice, and then you are amenable to contempt of court. And so we have put, to serve same on the clerk of parliament as well as the speaker of parliament. And so whichever way you look at it, they should not have any means to have, the redeclared. And I want to make a distinction here. It appears that narrative in the media does not capture accurately what has transpired. Now, we are all guided by laws, and we are all, expected to, ensure that our conduct and behavior is in compliance with the law. What happened with the situation with Fantiakwa North is that after the elections, coalition was ongoing, and of course, there were misunderstandings. There were two, polling stations whose results created the problem. One polling station, what happened was that after the coalition had been done actually at the polling station, and the pink sheet had been completed and signed and copies given out to the party agents, the presiding officer, after the agents had left, went ahead and did his own changes on the pink sheet. So that became a problem, and so they had to take time to deal with that. There was also another polling station. At this polling station, the presiding officer claimed that he could not even find his own pink sheet, which was incredible. Now, these two polling stations are one of the strongholds of the NDC candidate. And if you should put the two, voters on these two polling stations together, which is the stronghold of our NDC candidate, he should be winning the elections with more than 1,000 votes. And so you could see clearly that there was an orchestrated attempt, to make him lose the elections. However, despite all the efforts, intended to undermine his victory, when the returning officer subsequently called the agents and the candidate to come, so all of them to do the coalition, he continued to do that, settled the issue, and then did a declaration in favor of the NDC candidate. Now, what is curious about this whole Fantiakwa North matter is that, a lot of the information doesn't seem to be in the public domain about what exactly the electoral has done. Now, after the declaration, a day after, then the regional director of the Electoral Commission at Kofodia, he calls to Fantiakwa and then sends
Lawyer, are you there? It would appear we've lost the connection to Lawyer Isaac Minta Labi, who is a Fantiakwa North PC. He's been trying to set the record straight with some of the reporting that we've had. But from where I sit, much of what Lawyer Minta Labi has said so far agrees with what our correspondent has said. But lawyer, if you're there, the only thing that you haven't spoken about now is why the declaration, the original declaration, was done in that room. I think it would lay bare the concerns people have raised about the Fantiakwa North original declaration, which went in favor of your client. So if you can hear me, take on that for me quickly.
Now, what happened was that the coalition was actually suspended after the election due to the misunderstandings. And so what happened was that the day after, the returning officer called, because he needed to conclude his work. He is the returning officer for the constituency. Irrespective of the misunderstandings, he needs to be able to get his work up to a point where he either report back to his officers or conclude the work. And so he called the party agents and the candidates to come in so they can find a way to resolve the matter. That's what happened. And you see, once you are done with the declaration, there's a declaration form that you must complete, and that will complete your work. And that is where you, the returning officer, you must sign, endorse, put your name, put the date and signature, and all these things. Now, those copies had already been returned to the Electoral Commission. And so to be able to get access to these documents, you have to go to the Electoral Commission office. So that room is actually the Electoral Commission office. And so what happened was that he called and said, look, these documents, due to the misunderstanding and the suspension of the coalition, even when you meet me there, I cannot have access to the declaration forms to be able to complete the work. So meet me at the Electoral Commission office at Fantiakwa, where I can get access to the document. And once we understand ourselves, we can proceed to complete the forms. Everybody will get their copy. That's what happened. And so it's not like somebody's room or somebody's bedroom or anything.
Right.
This is the Electoral Commission. In Fantiakwa, not Tesano, in Fantiakwa. And this is the officer for the elections. So he is the one mandated by law to undertake this duty and responsibility. And he is the one who went ahead to do it. Under the law, once the declaration, the only option on the table for any person who feels aggrieved is to go to court. There is nothing like a re-declaration under the law.
Very well.
There is nothing like that. And a re-declaration cannot be done by even the Electoral Commission. It can only be done pursuant to a court order. That is it. So all that is going on, unfortunately, people don't seem to understand. And they think that, oh, okay, Electoral Commission can do this. But no. The law is very clear. The CR 127 who regulates elections in this country. Once a declaration has been done, if you are unhappy, see, if parties and we understand ourselves, we can correct whatever mistake we feel there is and move on. As long as we understand ourselves, we don't need to go to court. Case closed.
Very well. Lawyer, thank you so much for talking to us. We'll follow this story closely as it unfolds. I appreciate your time with us. Yvonne Ikwe, thank you also for talking to us. Yvonne Ikwe is our Eastern Region correspondent. We've been talking about the Akwatia and Fantiakwa North constituency. It would appear that as it is now, there are stumbling blocks in the way of the redeclared MPs from being, sworn in. Yes, that's what I want to say. Sworn in on January 6th in Parliament. Anyway, there's one more thing I want us to talk about, and it's because there will be no new leadership for the NPP in the 9th Parliament as the caucus flips from majority to minority. More of that when we come back. Don't go away. leader, the Efutu MP, Alexander Penyomakin, is en route to becoming the minority leader. This comes after NPP's National Council voted to retain Penyomakin alongside his deputy Patricia PJ as caucus leaders. This also means the Efutu MP will sit on the left-hand side of the speaker, a position he showed dread for in the last few months of 2024. I want to show you more of this. So there he is, pictured to the left of your screen, Alexander Penyomakin, incoming minority leader. Patricia PJ will be deputy minority leader. Frank Anodompre, the Sawama Drejui MP, who almost lost his seat thanks to the redeclaration. He's returning to Parliament, thanks to the EC declaration in Accra, excuse me. He's returning to Parliament as minority chief whip. Habib Idrisu, once first deputy majority whip, will be first deputy minority whip. Now, there comes the change. Davis Ansa Opoku, MP-elect for Mpreso, will now be the second deputy minority whip because the Sashia Cantomanto MP, Alex Tete, has lost his seat. And so he's not coming back to Parliament, and Davis will take the position. So this is the lineup we'll see for the minority side in the 9th Parliament. The National Council of the NPP is retaining all of them. The newbie on the block of leadership for the NPP will be Davis Ansa Opoku, MP-elect in Preso, as second deputy minority whip. That's what we are picking up so far. And so there it is: Alexander Penyomakin, Patricia PJ, Frank Anodompre, Habib Idrisu, and Davis Ansa Opoku. So that's it. The minority side will be complemented by the list of people that you have seen all the way to the entrant, Davis Opoku. I want to bring in now Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otre, who is a political scientist who will share some insights on these changes we are seeing. Doc, good evening to you. Good choice, or choices, if you like, the National Council have made?
Well, I would say good evening to your good self and to your viewers. Political analyst, not a political scientist. I think that I've already granted an interview on this particular issue with 3FM, and my views are quite simple. I don't know what the National Council saw to maintain Penyomakin. They might have seen something that I have not seen. But at this point in time, when you have an absolute minority, then I think you need someone who can really build bridges. Because if it is a matter of the bravado, the display of someone who thinks that is on top of everyone, his shoulders towering above everybody else, and now he's going into minority and you make him the minority leader, well, then it means that he might have seen certain things that others have not seen. But if it is a matter of skill of negotiation, which he doesn't have, because if he did, I don't think that the MPP would have found itself where it finds itself today, in terms of he running to the Supreme Court to create all manner of problems for the party, that if probably they were supposed to gather a certain data to find out exactly what caused their loss, that humongous loss, probably this one would have become part of the reasons why they lost the elections in such a humongous way. Be that as it may, when it comes to the rigors of Parliament, in terms of the Hansard, in terms of the rules and regulations of Parliament, I think you cannot take that away from Mr. Penyomakin. He really learned his ropes from that of Mr. Oseche Mensah-Bonsu. But you could see the difference. There is a vast difference. You could see that post-Oseche Mensah-Bonsu's era has been nothing but the topsy-turvy fortunes for the MPP. And just because you have, I don't know whether it is youthful exuberance or someone who thinks that he knows it all and will not consult other members who are senior members of the party as part of the caucus. if this is what the MPP intends to put across with respect to the 9th Parliament, then I'm very sure and certain that in the 10th Parliament, they will still be in opposition. Now, apart from Afenyomakens, you can talk of another bread. I mean, I don't know whether in terms of the whip system he's been very good, but to pass a comment like, for example, that the turbidity of the water in the NDC era was far worse than theirs, that was an unguarded statement. And though he is a UCC product in the past, I will not in any way ask that he be maintained. One way or the other, they could have thought of the former, I don't want to suggest names for now, but
why not? You think there could have been better choices made for these positions?
Yes, certainly. What's the name of this man? He's one of the Obuasi MPs, who was then the majority, leader for the finance committee or something of that sort. A very vociferous person. He speaks true to power. I think that you would need such a person at the forefront. But getting to the dying embers of the party in government, I think he fell out of the powers that be in terms of the establishment and was kicked out, and he was made the leader or the spokesperson for the economy, of which we do not know what came out of that particular committee. Habib, Habib is tainted. He has an issue, an Australian issue that he's supposed to deal with. I think that matter is in court. So you could have, changed that person. Apart from that, even the kind of words that he uses, some of them are non-lexical. You cannot find them in the dictionary. Words like interpreted and all those things that he's been using.
Doc? You are accusing him of malapropism.
Oh, of course. I mean, if you can check some of the things that he used to say, especially when they were facing these difficulties with respect to this parliament and that of the speaker. And you will find out he was using that particular word, a word that does not exist in the dictionary. And so the rest, I have nothing else to say about them. But if the National Council thinks that in their own wisdom, Mr. Afenyomakens, as I said, in terms of the rigors of parliament, in terms of issues relating to the answer, in terms of issues in terms of parliament, you cannot take that thing away from him. But that is not enough.
That is not enough. That is not enough. And here's what I'll say to that. And I'm glad that you came up with some names, because this is what we are hearing from the quarters of the NPP, that the leadership of the 9th Parliament will look like. There was one more person that, I forgot to add, because the position of the second deputy minority whip, because it's vacant now, as second deputy majority whip, I mentioned earlier that Alex Jobonwa had lost his seat, and so that position needs to be filled. Our understanding is the contest could be between Davis Ansa Opoku, the MP elect for Impresso, and then Jerry, who you see on your screen at the moment. Jerry Ahmed Shaib is a first-time MP himself, and he could be also considered for that position. So if this is anything to go by, this is likely to be the leadership we'll see for the minority side in Parliament. Remember, I also said that the Efutu MP has dreaded sitting on the left-hand side of the MP, of the Speaker, in the last few months, and it would appear that if he's retained, he's going exactly there. But, let's take the opportunity to look on the flip side, the incoming majority as well. What would be your advice to them in terms of making choices for leadership?
Well, I think that in their case, it's a bit dicey. I'm very sure that the president-elect will be torn between maintaining Dr. Kessie Ford as the majority leader or making him the finance minister, or because he's been deputy before, so having been majority leader, and of course his role bringing the party into power. Obviously, if he's not maintained as majority leader, then there's supposed to be some kind of shifting cultivation, so to speak. But Ama Kofi Buah, fantastic personality. In the past, he's been Minister for Energy. I don't know whether they are going to maintain him there or they want to do a reshuffling altogether. It will be a bit suicidal reshuffling all of them, thinking that they will want to take up ministerial appointment. They should also be thinking about having people who are well experienced, you know, to hold a fort in terms of the majority vis-a-vis the minority and the debate thereof, because Parliament is about rules. And if you don't have someone who has that well in-depth knowledge in the area of parliamentary rules and regulations, you'll be goofing. And of course, trust me, if Mr. Aban is maintained as a speaker, which I believe if it is not his health condition, I don't see why they will want to change him for any other person for now. Then it means that if they want to do that, then most likely they may bring back Mr. Haruna as the majority leader, and then probably send Kessie Herford to become the finance minister. I don't know if they may want to do that.
I don't know either. I don't know either. We'll see how that plays out. Thank you so much for talking to us, Doc.
Welcome.
Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otre is a political analyst. We've been discussing how things could play out in terms of leadership, especially on the side of the NPP and incoming minority because of issues we have had. But we'll move on to something else now. I want to take you to the Cantomanto market in a bit. But first, let's take a breather from the political issue. When we come back, Cantomanto is where we'll be. You want to see how, you know, destroyed, devastated, ravaged the places after the fire. Don't go away.
This is the reason why I love Ghana.
Then the lottery Akwatia MP yenim se Ghana and Edim Kunim.
We are one. Ghana as one.
We are proud about Ghana. Sabaya 2 years now. Akos asundem ayen shia ohawbia.
Africa and the rest of the world salute Ghana.
Don't forget the lottery Akwatia MP stands
and worse. The overnight fire outbreak is expected to have killed 1 person in the process. Tonight, as the central business slips into slumber, the central business district, that is, our cameras are capturing the devastating aftermath. Armstrong Goldalogbe is joining us with a bit more on the story. Armstrong, what can you report tonight?
It's been more than 21 hours after fire ravaged this place, Cantomanto to be precise, and you see some people are still trying to salvage from the ashes And surprisingly enough, I've also heard that one person has passed allegedly. This man has been giving us that information. He claims that is his friend Rasta. So earlier when I got here, you told me that one person has passed. Yeah. Can you confirm?
Yeah.
No, I'll hold it for you.
Yeah, one person died. It's my friend.
He died?
Yeah.
How did he die?
Oh, it's the fire. He died inside.
He was in the fire?
Yeah.
Who purchased it? Oshiye?
Oshiye.
Oshiye.
Oshiye. Body in Nane. In Nane. And you didn't call hospital.
Anopa
na. How much is he one?
Okay.
Into one baby start here. No, you say no than ona a Jan start here. To Jan start here no inside. To a prayer na adi ni bi eno no de mujahye e pie free janim to pie free janim de na ese ne hu nyina woro abesi down
when am rush ne call kwalebu
e de no call kwalebu e de no call kwalebu na yeti ana ese enua no
yeso wu time be
owu be 3 mu honum
3 anopa we ana say
anopa mre 3 mu
honum 3 yeah. So you could see this other man, for instance, sleeping here. Let me ask him now, boss. I don't know what that say.
Officer, niamano ye bibia na ye bibia shinti no ye
na anya fiu.
Officer, sana ye no ye hustler life.
Nti mu ha na moda.
Befa. Apata no pon share kra no obia ani na ha no moda. Ti ye ne kakra kakra.
So he says this where they sleep until the fire ravaged this place, and you could see another lady sleeping here. She just left this place. So all these people you see around here, we are told this is where they sleep day in, day out. Unfortunately, the fire raised down the entire place. Let me take you into the Cantomanto place proper, and let's see what exactly is happening in here, as many people are not giving up trying to get some more properties for themselves. This has been the situation since morning, and you can see some pockets of fires. From where I'm walking is where they sell foods, and also we have people selling eggs, crates of eggs here. Everything has been raised completely. You can hear some explosions from the very far end now, but not so serious. Let me talk to Madam. Madam, at this time, now, we don't want to see by this time.
My partner is in house.
What do you know about house? But say you know she.
Maybe any dresses and kwa about 3.
Is it by this time about say we then?
Maybe I say I'm pa. Say I'm pa.
Okay. If you are on a path no balance over your
About much 130.
How much 130? And I still discussing how much money have you invested? Pardon?
Billions of cedis.
You invested.
No cramp me and Sakwa, Nima Wonka, about 700 million. Me base the crowd here warehouse and come home. Base our warehouse and come home.
But seriously, I said dresses at Cantomanto, and there's fire outbreak like around 1 a.m. But as you people can see, everything is burnt. Even human being, even a child, everything, a child and a mother is burnt.
No, over here we didn't hear that.
Oh, we have, yeah.
A child and a mother burnt?
Yes.
But how come we don't know about that?
Yes, that's what we are telling you. You see, it's serious. So, as we are here, we want to talk and we want to speak for how should I say it, for the our Pennyfono to come to our aid, because seriously we need them. We need them seriously, because it's not easy.
We've not heard about the baby and the mother. We only heard one young man has burnt.
A baby and mother we've lost them. Yeah.
You say your name is?
I'm Portia Sari.
Portia Sari also speaking to us there, also alleging that a mother and a baby died here earlier, and we've not heard that, but she's just breaking the news to us over there. Boss, please come close to me. I can see you have a stick. What's happening with the stick?
We are taking
Well, I'm sure we're going to have to leave it here, but thank you so much for joining us. Just news coming in. I want to quickly share this with you before I go. The NPP National Council meeting on Thursday has constituted an election review committee to conduct a post-mortem on the party's participation and performance in the recently concluded 2024 presidential and parliamentary election. I want to share with you the list of the composition of the committee, really. Right Honorable Professor Michael Quay, the former Speaker of Parliament, former Dom Kwabenya MP, will be the chair of the committee. There is also Emerita Professor Ya Intiamwa Bedu, a member, Professor Kofi Osei Akwaku, Professor Samuel Betts Bwedi Kusi, Dr. Felix Yamoa, Dr. Joseph Ejapon Damoy, Mr. F.F. Anto, Mr. Kweku Domfe, Honorable Gifty Kusi, Honorable Abdullah Abanga, Seidu Nasiregi Esquire, and William Yamoa, all members of this committee. More on this story if you stay with us here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. Thank you so much for your company here on Ghana Tonight. It's been a wonderful 1 hour or so. My name is Kemeni Amano. I'll see you same time tomorrow. And remember, there will be live coverage of the President's last State of the Nation address here on TV3 from as early as 6 a.m. You want to stay with us here on this channel. I've got to run right now. Good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.